Hi guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we are the Two Stocky Guys.
On this channel, we invest $1,000 into the stock market every week and share with you guys our journey. And then when we have free time, we talk about financial topics.
Yeah.
And for this episode, we are going to talk about the 10 types of fire.
Yeah.
I had no idea there were that many,
Yeah.
but we found this article online about 10 different types of fire.
Yeah.
Let's just go through it.
Yeah.
Okay. So our first type of fire is traditional fire. And it seems like for this one, you think about your number, right? Which is like the amount of money you need so that you can retire. And then it seems you just proactively save as much as you can.
Yeah, you try to get there basically. And I mean, this is kind of all the fires. Like this is kind of like the umbrella term for fire, I guess. And the rest of these are kind of just like subcategories or different strategies of how to achieve that, maybe on a different time frame or with different goals in mind. Basically, all the fires are kind of just really anything other than working a 40-hour work week until you're 65 and retiring. I mean, that's kind of what it has become now. Yeah.
I think that the good thing about traditional fire, or just like saying that you're firing or whatever, is that you are focused on saving, which is always good, right? Like no matter what your financial strategy or investing strategy is, saving more money to do that is always good.
Yeah.
And then two is that you're being very intentional, right? Like you have sort of a number or a rough estimate of your retirement number, or how big you want your nest egg to be, and you're being intentionally going towards that goal.
Yeah, and you have a goal, you have a plan of how to achieve that goal. That's very important. So not hating on that at all. That's a good strategy.
Yep. I think it's like you have a goal and sort of you can weave your way towards that goal. The second one is lean fire. And this one is the minimalist. You plan to retire and continue living forward on a very minimal income, a very minimal lifestyle.
Right. It's nice if you are okay with being very minimal and maybe you're alone, because I think it starts at like, basically it's less than $40,000. So $40,000 a year is not a whole lot of money, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, we're in California, so $40,000 a year is basically nothing.
You can't do that in California.
Yeah, you would have to be. First of all, you would have to be in a cheaper place, so that kind of limits the places that you can live to even get into lean fire, and it also limits what you're able to do in your life. Like honestly, I would find it very hard to have a family on $40,000 a year.
I think you touched on basically all my thoughts too. It's like one is, I would say it's so restrictive, right? In terms of like how you can live your life, how you can change your life if you're not satisfied with it, right? And then also geographically, right? There's only so many cities, so many places that you can live.
Yeah.
I suspect that this is a good option, or maybe a better option if you are okay moving international.
Yeah. If you could move to like Thailand, if you could move somewhere kind of cheaper in Mexico, and just live off. And $40,000 goes a lot further than it would like in the States where we live. Then it might make a little bit more sense then. Or maybe if you're honestly, if you want to go and build a cabin in the woods, if you're growing your own food and living in a cabin you built yourself, $40,000 a year actually goes pretty far. But I'm assuming that not many people want to live in a cabin in the woods.
Right.
So.
And living in Thailand or Mexico where you don't speak the language fluently. Yeah. Maybe it's fun for a year. I don't know if it's going to be that fun 5, 10, 20 years from now.
Right. And things could change in those countries too. Like those countries are developing, so they could become more expensive. And then your $40,000 doesn't go that far. And now where are you at?
Right.
Yeah.
If anything, I feel like a lot of those other countries that are developing are a lot more, I don't know, I wouldn't say unstable, but they're more prone to changes.
Right.
Like things can really fluctuate within just like a few years.
Yeah.
Whereas in the U.S.
People want things to stay the same for the most part because everybody's kind of got, their thing going. So, no one wants things to change hugely very quickly. Whereas in other countries, they might find a huge problem and find a way to fix it. And that changes things vastly in the country. Like Singapore was not where it's at right now a few years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And I bet like the cost of living, cost of food, cost of everything has just like skyrocketed in Singapore over a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I think the other thing that like Lean Fire I feel like really uncomfortable about is healthcare. Right? Healthcare, health emergencies. Like when you're living so bare minimum, you really don't have much of an emergency fund, and like healthcare in this country is only getting worse.
Yeah.
Right? Like you know, like who knows what sort of medical issues or limitations that will happen to you, you know, 5, 10, 20 years from now, right? Like we all wish everyone just stays really, really healthy, but you know, sudden things happen. And even if you're, you know, like you said, like you have your cabin in the woods and you're planting and making your own food and doing all that, who knows what like freak accident can happen? Who knows?
Bears.
Yeah. Or anything that can happen in your health. You know, maybe you have like a family history of something. It's just like there's just so little room for surprises. And in life, like what is life but surprises?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so Lean Fire, it's very like.
Yeah, I'd say probably the most risky one in the bunch, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah,
it's just like so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I'd rather you do like traditional fire and be lean than to make your fire leaner.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense. All right. Number 3, fat fire. You're considered fat fire if you want an annual retirement income of 100,000 or more.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty. I mean, 100,000. That's a pretty good amount of money for most places. You know, I mean, in California, it's not going to go as far if you live in a major city, but most parts of the U.S. you could live pretty well off of $100,000 a year.
Right. I think if you're like retiring and you're getting more than 100,000, you should be fine.
Yeah, that should be good for just about anybody. But to get to that point, it's pretty hard because you're going to need, I think it's at least 2.5 million invested to get to that point, and that's just the entry level for fat fire, basically. Like if you're really fat, then it just goes up from there, basically. And to get $2.5 million is no easy feat.
Yeah, I feel like that's extremely hard for a vast majority of people.
Yeah.
No matter how stingy you are.
Yeah. Saving at that point, saving is not going to get you to fat fire. You're going to have to be a high income earner in some way, whether it's through like a day job or you have like some kind of sales job where you can make a lot of money really quickly. Like you're going to need to make a lot of money to make fat fire even be achievable. You're not going to get there through saving.
Yeah, I think unless you're already making a very good income, I'm just trying to think about how, you know, a person with like the average U.S. salary, what is the average household salary like?
Like 50, 60,000.
Yeah, less than 100 for sure, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to think about how like a single person can save for that and to retire early and get that kind of income. Like I'm thinking about like you're living with your parents.
Yeah.
You know, till you're 40s, 50s, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You're not paying rent. You're probably not having kids.
No, definitely not having pre-kids, yeah.
You know, I'm just like, and even then, I just don't even know, like, even with those things, how you're going to do it. You're probably driving like the oldest car you can find for the longest amount of time. And again, even still, like that, I feel like fat fire is just so unachievable for so many people.
Yeah, it's almost like the exact opposite of lean fire. Lean fire is like no one would want to do it because it's so bad, and fat fire is like almost no one can achieve it because it's so hard. Yeah.
Number 4 is obese fire. And obviously this is fatter than fat fire.
Yeah.
Those who want to retire with, let's just say, millions in the bank.
Yeah, I think it's over 5 million is kind of when it becomes obese fire is what this is saying. And like I said, 2.5 million is a lot. $5 million is a whole lot of money. Again, saving is not going to get you there. This is a ridiculously high income.
This is gross, and this is like sickening, and I think
it's obese.
And you know, I think it's just like borderline offensive to kind of have like this sort of list listed amongst the other categories of fire, because the other categories of fire are like people, with like modest incomes and like modest lifestyles, and they're like, what are the things that they need to do? What are the things that they need to sacrifice to get to financial freedom, to retire early, to enjoy their family, enjoy their life, and things like fat fire and like definitely obese fire is kind of like, you're already financially stable.
Oh yeah, you're more than financially
Right.
stable this way. Yeah, you could just coast at this point. You'd be great. I think obese fire is, and I think it says in this article too, it's more for people that want to hand down a lot of money. So they want to create generational wealth, and they're willing to sacrifice their well-being to do that. Because really, to get to that amount, I'm assuming that you didn't just like inherit a lot of money, or you're not already coming from a couple $1 million. To build $5 to $10 million off of nothing.
Yeah.
Assuming that you don't wait until you're 65 is going to take a long time and a lot of hard work, and hardly anyone's gonna be able to do it, because you're gonna need to be pretty intelligent to be able to do this too.
Yeah, but I feel like if you're that rich already, right, there are other ways for you to ensure financial well-being for your future generations, right? Like if you think about, like the rich people who do like pass on money, right? They're doing it through like investments, right?
Yeah.
They're doing it through educating, educating their kids and grandkids, right? Like they're doing things as opposed to just like, oh, I just have these millions. I'm just gonna totally save it and not enjoy my life.
Right.
I don't know if people are doing that, right? Like I feel like they're enjoying their lives, and maybe they're not like just blowing money, but there are other ways to pass on and secure generational wealth when you're this wealthy.
Right.
When you're wealthy enough to even consider obese fire. Like I just feel like this is just
So if lean fire and fat fire are unachievable, obese fire is just stupid.
It's stupid.
Like there's just other things that you should be doing. Honestly, I don't want to put anyone down for trying to achieve obese fire, but honestly, like, you can do better things with your life, bro. Like, don't be that stingy.
Right.
Don't try to achieve that. Like, at this point, it's just about money.
right. I think you're right. I think like there comes a point where if you have so much money, like you shouldn't be stingy.
Yeah.
You should like either spend that money to maximize your life, right? Like we only have one life, and obviously if you're an obese fire, you have tons of money. You have like too much money, right? So like spend that money to do more with your own life, or your family's life, or the rest of the world's life.
Yeah, help somebody else out.
Yeah. I just think that it's just ridiculous. We're moving on.
I think obese is a good title for this because it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
This is unhealthy.
Okay, slow fire. I like this one. Okay, so slow fire basically means you have your retirement number or fire number, and you're slowly getting there, trying to strike a balance between saving and enjoying life.
Yeah, this is probably, I would say, in my opinion, the best type of fire, and it's pretty similar to traditional fire, only you're not trying to retire so early, I guess. You could, retire maybe 5 years early or 7 years early or something, which goes a long way, later in life. Like if you think about it, like, oh, I'm only getting out, I'm getting out in 60 versus 65. Well, 5 years is a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is just kind of, this kind of fits the definition of most savers who don't call themselves fire people.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think if you're, being financially minded and you're thinking about retirement, you're thinking about your family and like your financial security, you're probably a slow fire person.
Yeah, you're probably already doing. There probably are a lot of people that are already doing this and just didn't put that label on it.
Yeah. I think this is just like the average financially minded Joe.
Yeah.
Right? Slow fire. Good, which is great.
Which is good. Yes.
Which is great. Okay, I like this one. This is probably my favorite fire, coast fire. The emphasis for this type of fire is that you try to save a lot of money very, very early on. Like let's say like in your 20s, you want to save as much as you can because the money you save in your 20s goes way further than the same amount of money saved in your 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
So the sooner you can save money and put that in the stock market and assuming it just like grows at a
Because
steady
it compounds.
rate, right?
Yeah.
Then like it's all about time, right? Like the earlier you start,
Yeah.
the better.
Time in the market beats timing the market.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think I like this one, but there's definitely problems.
Yeah. Well, I would say probably the biggest problem is you have to be pretty financially well-rounded early on in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm approaching 30 now, and I feel like I'm just getting to a point where I am pretty sound, financially minded person. So you'd have to have, probably your parents would have to be good with money and have kind of instilled those values in you.
Right.
So the type of person that's going to be able to get in, really early into this, it's a limited subset of people, so I will say that.
Yeah. So one problem I see is that like everyone makes mistakes, right? And usually it's better to make some of those mistakes, especially financially, early.
Yeah,
because
so they're smaller.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're a lot smaller. If you're saving so much in your 20s, maybe you're not able to make those financial mistakes, and then you do those mistakes in your 30s, 40s, or later on, and they just hurt so much more.
Yeah.
And you also have less time to rebound from those mistakes.
Yeah.
Like I'm approaching my 40s, and like I've made a lot of financial mistakes. I would be so much richer. I would be so much fatter and more obese, right? If it weren't for those financial mistakes.
Yeah.
But it's like those are the mistakes that like I can pass on to my kids, or I can like teach them about, right? Those are the mistakes that I'm like, okay, I'm glad that only cost me so much money, because now those same mistakes would cost me a lot more.
Yeah, 10 times or 100 times as much. Yeah.
Right. So that's something that I see. And then I think the other one is sort of just like lifestyle, like your 20s, right? Like Coast Fire requires you to sacrifice your 20s.
Yeah. So that's, like I said, you're going to have to be pretty financially minded to make that decision. Because I don't think that I would, I felt like I was pretty all right with my money. Like I didn't waste money. But I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, I want to save this money so that I can invest it so that when I'm 30, I'll have a lot of money. No, it's like, I want to save this money so that I can go out and eat next weekend or something like that. Like it was very short-sighted. I feel like when you're younger, you're not able to see 10, 20, 30 years into the future for most people.
And also I feel like even if you are, it's your 20s, right?
Yeah.
Like there is like, I don't feel like there's another decade of your life, well, maybe from 0 to 10, where like things are changing so much, right? You're talking about like college or the transition from like finishing education to getting a career, your first job, right?
Yeah.
Some people's like first marriage.
Yeah.
Like there's like so much happening in your 20s.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like sacrificing that time period of your life is, I don't know if it is worth it. Because if you think about your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, like if you ask me like, oh, let's sacrifice my 50s or sacrifice my 60s or 70s, like I totally do that over my 20s.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like, I feel like as you get older, the decades, maybe there's less change happening as you stabilize.
Yeah.
But I feel like 20s is like when people are growing, changing, making mistakes, like following their dreams, making friends, relationships. It's just like so much happening, and asking people to sacrifice so much of that. I mean, it's for a good reason. Right?
Yeah, for a good reason, obviously.
But
I think, I don't know. I think that I would say I kind of wish that more people would do that. I think that thinking about sacrificing your 40s or your 50s kind of sounds bad because so many people aren't doing it. Like if everyone sacrificed their 20s and we were all enjoying our 30s and 40s together, I think that would make it seem a little bit different. So I think this is kind of maybe like a cultural thing. Like everybody's like, oh yeah, it's my 20s. I need to live it up because the next 40 years are going to suck.
That's fair, because if you think of it like that, if it's like you want to be more cultural, that's kind of like saying, well, a lot of people spend their 20s in school.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's what I did. Yeah.
Right. Graduate education. Right. Like, yeah, you're already sacrificing a lot. Right. Well, but if you say that, like, I mean, a lot of people in their 20s also don't have that much money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that is true. Also.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. Enough with Coast Fire. Okay, that was number 6. All right, number 7, barista fire.
Yeah, I kind of like this one,
Okay,
to be honest.
you wanna explain this one?
Yeah, so this one basically you're still trying to become financially independent, but it's with essentially like kind of a, not really a side hustle, but just a job that you can do that makes a lot of money for only a couple days. So it'd be like being a barista. So you would have enough money to live, and then you would have like a part-time job that you work just a few hours a week,
Yep.
and then you're supplementing that income basically. So you have 2 streams of income coming in.
Yep, your retirement income plus your part-time
Right.
income on top.
Yeah, so you don't have to have as much money up front, which allows you to do this much earlier in life.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to have a stressful job. Like you can still have a life, you'll still have a lot of time. Otherwise, you can, work on different side hustles, maybe work on different businesses or something. I mean, it's called barista because that's just kind of an example, but another one's like burger flipper fire. Yeah. I said you said I think initially bartender fire, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good because I know some people that go to Vegas 2 nights a week, just on Saturday and Sunday, and make a ton of money.
Yeah.
So you could do that, like just have some money saved up. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to Vegas this weekend to bartend, and then that's it.
I like this. I like this because with the advent of like the gig economy, people are
Yeah.
able to do a variety of jobs that are readily available.
Yeah, and you could do it. You could do it around your schedule too. Like if you had enough money to retire, and you're just like, yeah, I'll do Uber when I feel like making some money. I mean, that's pretty independent right there. Like you can just work whenever you want to and make money whenever you want to. That's a lot better than having a 40-hour work week where you have to go in when you're told to go in. So I think the independence factor here is what I like, and that you're able to achieve that much earlier on. So it's mainly the independent factor, not so much the retire early or even the financial independence factor of it. It's just the life independence that I like about it. Yeah.
You can make more choices. You can make more decisions with your time. I think barista fire is gonna be like, if it's not super popular already, I think it's gonna be
much more popular as the gig economy develops. Yeah, I think it might become gig fire eventually.
Yeah, I think it's got to be one of the most common types of fire because again, it allows you to like live your life, maybe pursue other pursuits, other dreams that you have, other occupations that you kind of want to do, and then just do a part-time thing. Yeah. I think for this one, I kind of feel like something that pops in my head is like, gosh, I hope that you're not giving up a really good job that you enjoy
to go be a barista or a bartender.
To do these like part-time gigs that you don't enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest con. Like obviously with this, you're not going to have a career. So if you're someone that wants a career out of this, you're not going to be able to put the time into it, like 5 or 10 years to develop a career, like to really like master a skill. You're going to be you're always going to be kind of a part-time person. Like you're going to be a handyman. You can do a little bit of everything, but you're never going to like master anything. So honestly, you kind of have to think about that. Like if you're the type of person that's kind of like, I want to be the best at something, which is, kind of how I feel. Yeah. I don't think that this is the best fire for you. And maybe that's why I like it so much, because it's kind of like, oh man, I would really like to do this if I wasn't the way I am.
Yeah, I think the good thing about this article is says that the part-time work is mainly for health insurance and other benefits. Right, yeah. And I think that a lot of the other fires don't really talk about what to do with health insurance.
Yeah, they don't. They kind of don't take that into consideration for the most part. And that's, I guess that is a thing that's specific to living in the United States too, because most other countries have some type of universal health care. So maybe it's not a consideration if you live somewhere else, but I think fire is also kind of a United States thing for the most part. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you do have to take into consideration health insurance. Yeah.
Number 8, flamingo fire. Yeah. Okay, so there are 3 phases in flamingo fire. So the first phase is what they're calling the accumulation phase, where you work and you make more than what you need so that you can put into savings, right? So they call this the accumulation. So this is your saving stage. And then the second stage is that once you have enough saved, you just work enough to support your current lifestyle. Right. So they call this the semi-retirement stage, I think. And then the third stage is obviously you fully retire.
Right. Yeah. So you're kind of like phasing yourself out of it, basically. You're building up a nest egg.
Yeah.
I think that's where the flamingo part comes from, which I looked it up. Flamingos do lay eggs. I don't know why they couldn't have used just any other bird, honestly. Maybe flamingo starts with F and so does fire. I don't know.
So I think apparently this this says that the name came from the Money Flamingo blog.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. I mean, this is kind of similar to what I want to do, actually. Like, I want to make money up front and then kind of phase out instead of just stop working, period. Because then if you're phasing out, if you do need to go back to work, it's not that hard to get back in. You still have insurance. You're still kind of crossing your T's and dotting your I's. So I feel like this is more of a risk-averse strategy to fire.
I don't know if I like this one.
No?
So I think this is if you think about career trajectories, I think this is a very impractical one. Say that you're an engineer or programmer, basically any professional, right? So when you start out, you make a base income or so, right? And then as you progress in your career, you should make more and more money, right? So as you get older and more experienced, you should get paid more, right? And then also, probably the work should maybe get a little easier, right? You're more comfortable.
Yeah, easier to you at least.
Right, you're more comfortable with your role. You're more comfortable with like the skill set, right?
Yeah.
And so technically, like as you get older, you're making more money for maybe less effort, either physically or mentally, right? You're like an expert already. So it's like Picasso, right? In the beginning, maybe he took a lot of time, and then maybe like later on in his life when he's just like, he drew like thousands of paintings already, he's just like blah, blah, blah. And he's like, they're good, you know, and it's great, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that like, I feel like that's the problem with Flamingo Fire is that, you know, as you progress in your career, you make more money for less effort or less strain.
Right, yeah.
And so why don't you just keep going and then just retire early?
Yeah.
Right? Like I feel like this is, and the thing is that like most professional careers, I don't know if they offer you that option.
To just like work less.
Yeah. Right? Like I think if you're, let's say like you're an engineer at like SpaceX or Tesla.
Oh yeah, they're just gonna cut you.
Right, like you can, you know, like you can't just go like, oh, you know I'm amazing.
Yeah.
And you're paying me a ton.
Yeah.
But you know, instead of working 5-6 days a week, I only want to work like 2 or 3 now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
so you probably have to give it. It's probably similar to the other one where you can't really have a professional career. Like I've heard about some people like in the software sector switching from like Tesla or something that's very intense and makes a lot of money to something where you can coast a little bit more. Like some people are saying like Microsoft. Like I guess it's easier to work there and you don't make as much money.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be a way that you could phase out is like kind of just exit your career a little bit early, essentially.
Yeah, I just think that like taking like steps down or phasing out.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to maximize your income as a professional. That's for sure.
Right, and I just think it's probably a little bit more difficult than people think in some careers.
Yeah.
This is probably, you know, like if you're working in like real estate, probably a much easier
where you
to
control
phase out.
your time.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Like instead of like going out, getting clients, doing deals 5-7 days a week, maybe you only want to do it, you know, half days or you know 3-4 days a week. So I think in a profession like that, that's probably fine.
Yeah.
But like, you know, say you're a doctor working in a hospital.
You can't just say I want to come in less now.
It's much harder,
Yeah.
right? You kind of get you kind of lose quite a bit if it's even possible, right? You can switch different types of jobs, right? But that's, you know, that's also what happens if you're at a good job that you love already. So I'm just saying that, you know,
it'd be a very specific type of person again that would be able to do Flamingo Fire. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I just think that the semi-retirement stage or going from accumulation to semi-retirement or like going from like full-time work to like partial time work, it might be a little bit more difficult than it's worth.
Yeah.
So, okay. Number 9, baby fire. So this is when you save enough till that when you have a baby, one or both partners can have time off with the baby.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this one makes sense. I feel like that's a pretty sensible thing to do because I mean, you don't want to be both at work all the time when you just had a baby. So that makes sense. I don't know if calling it baby fire is the best thing. I feel like because I mean I think this is something that people kind of want to achieve already.
Yeah. I don't know if I like the term baby fire for this like purpose, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that this brings up sort of like interesting ideas, if nothing else. I think there are people who are fortunate enough to be financially stable enough where they can take extended time off,
right.
or they're in circumstances where they have enough support so that they can do that.
Yeah.
Because I think most people want to spend more time. But I think this concept brings in the notion that like these time with babies are worth sacrificing for. So we should sacrifice, some amount or some quantity and build this egg so that we can use it to spend more time with our baby.
Right.
I think that concept is, I like it.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, it means that like your baby is worth, these first few years are worth sacrificing for and preparing for.
Yeah. I think this is the least selfish fire for sure.
Right.
And I mean, obviously this isn't for everyone. I mean, obviously this is a married couple we're talking about, or a couple that is planning to have a baby at some point. And then you would have to start on this pretty early. Like you would have to either be dating really early on in your life and like decide like, hey, we want to work this way together so that we can achieve this in a few years with a baby. Because I mean, usually you're not planning to have a baby 20 years in the future. Like it's usually, it's a few years ahead of time or something like that.
Right.
So you're not going to have that much time to build up this financial independence,
right.
or you're going to be working extremely hard for a very short period of time to acquire that money. So it's a very finite group of people that would be able to do this. But like I like the concept. I like someone staying at home. And again, and also childcare is expensive. So honestly, it might be a better financial decision for one person not work. Like say you're making $50,000 a year and you have to spend $30,000 in childcare if you go back to work. It's probably better for you to just stay at home and take care of the baby. So it might not be that you have to make that much money, but you're saving money in a different way in this case. So this is kind of like fire on the back end. You're kind of saving on the back end.
Yeah. I like the ideas around this. Calling it a specific type of fire. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But I like the ideas about it.
I like where the heart's at.
Yep, for sure. Okay, this last one, hybrid fire or choose your own adventure fire. Honestly, I don't know how this is different from the traditional fire.
Yeah.
Maybe
I guess you just have less of a plan.
Maybe this one you don't need a number. Save as much as you can.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I guess choose your own adventure fire is probably better because I was about to say you're just rolling the dice basically.
Yeah, it seems like you're just dealing with what life throws at you. You're trying to reach your financial independence. It doesn't seem to I think everything is flexible, right? According to this, everything is flexible. Like your target retirement date is flexible. Your nest egg amount is flexible.
It seems really good for people with commitment issues.
I think it's funny because like we, maybe not we, but like I bash lean fire for being like so restrictive and risky, but I find like the opposite end of the spectrum with this like hybrid fire where it's like it's so vague and so nebulous.
Yeah, there's like no plan or no goal, which like I said at the beginning, the best part of fire is that you have a goal and you have a plan, and this lacks all of that.
Yeah, this lacks like intention, right? This kind of like, oh well.
Yeah, it's kind of just like into the wild. Like I'm going to try to retire early by pursuing my dream of becoming a YouTuber, or I'm going to go live in a van. Yeah,
because like I think if you're like, let's say you're trying to do lean fire, like and your friends ask you to go out with them on a Las Vegas weekend spree or something, you're like, no, I can't because I either can't afford it or I have this very specific narrow goal and I need to save every bit that I can to get to that goal, right? And like, okay, so I can't go, but to that, that's this great Vegas weekend. But I feel like hybrid fire is kind of like, sure, I'll go to the Vegas weekend. Sure, I'll blow tons of money.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, maybe this is YOLO fire. That's what it is.
Yeah. And it's like, well, then you're not even firing.
Yeah, you're not even fire. Yeah, this one, like, it almost doesn't even seem like fire to me, really. I mean, I guess the only difference from you just, bumping around randomly in life is that you are trying to retire early. Like, I guess you're just saving money while you're bumping around life.
Yeah, I'm just like, well, if that's the case, like, everyone's on hybrid fire.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no
But
one.
yeah, basically everybody is. Yeah.
Okay, well, there we go. The 10 types of fire.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I think that's it for this episode, guys. If you have any thoughts, if you're on a fire plan or like or dislike any of the fires we've mentioned, definitely leave a comment below. Please like and subscribe if you want to see us again.
Yeah.
All right. Till next time.
Bye.